Hello everyone. So today is week 6. We will continue our subject on English grammar and academic writing too. And today's lesson we will talk about the types of clause. First we will review what we have learned last week, and then we will go to the types of clause. At the end of the class you will have activity to do. So last week we talked about the sentence types, and in English writing, when we talk about sentence structure, we can divide sentence into 4 types. We have simple sentence, compound sentence, complex sentence, and compound complex sentence. To write a simple sentence, we can use 4 formulas. You can write a simple sentence with SV formula, SVV, SSV, SSVV. The letter S represents the subject and the letter V represents the verb or the predicate. So in a simple sentence you can use 2 subjects and 2 verbs, which is a compound subject and compound verb. And compound sentence refers to one sentence that contains 2 simple sentences, and these 2 simple sentences connect together by a fan voice or coordinating conjunctions. You can form a compound sentence by a semicolon or conjunctive adverb. Complex sentence is a kind of sentence that contain IC and DC. And today we will talk about what is IC and what is DC. So IC is independent clause and DC is dependent clause. So when a sentence contains one or more DC, that sentence will become complex sentence. And compound complex sentence is a compound sentence that contains one or more dependent clause. When a compound sentence has a dependent clause, we will call it a compound complex sentence. So now let's go to what is a clause and how many kinds of clause that we have. So now let's talk about clause. So you know simple sentence, you know compound sentence, but we did not discuss in detail about complex and compound complex sentence. So in order to understand complex and compound complex sentence, you need to understand what is clause. So clause is a group of words that contain a subject and verb, and sometimes it is independent, sometimes it is dependent. When we say independent clause, it is a sentence. Independent clause has a subject verb with a complete meaning, so it can stand alone as a sentence. But dependent clause is not a sentence. Dependent clause contains a subject and verb, but it does not have a complete idea. Sometimes we call it subordinated clause because it begins with the subordinating conjunction. So what we will discuss now is dependent clause, because dependent clause need independent clause to make a complete idea. Now let's start with a simple sentence. I bought a book. This sentence has 3 basic elements required of either a simple sentence or a clause. A simple sentence has a subject I, verb bought, and an object here, a book. Now let's add another clause. While my mother drank her coffee, I bought a book. Now we have 2 clauses in a sentence, but these clauses are not the same. The original clause I bought a book can stand on its own as a simple sentence, and it expresses a complete thought by itself. Therefore, it is called an independent clause. So, an independent clause is a group of words that contain a subject and verb. We can call it a unit that expresses a complete thought and could stand alone as a simple sentence. Whether you find an independent clause by itself as a simple sentence or join with other clauses, you will be able to identify it because it is a subject-verb unit that expresses a complete thought. But what about the other clause? While my mother drank her coffee, If we only consider the first clause, while my mother drank her coffee, we are left with a question in our mind. What happened while your mother drank her coffee? This clause cannot stand on its own as a simple sentence. It requires another clause to make it a complete meaning. Therefore, it is called a dependent clause. So we can define a dependent clause as a group of words that contain a subject and a verb, but it does not express a complete thought, so it cannot stand alone on its own as a simple sentence. So dependent clause is not a sentence, even though it has a subject and a verb. A dependent clause must always be connected to an independent clause. You will be able to identify it because it is a subject-verb unit that does not express a complete thought on its own, and mostly it begins with the subordinating conjunctions. So we will discuss about dependent clause. So there are three types of dependent clause that we will discuss from now on. We have noun clause, we have adjective or relative clause, we have adverb or adverbial clause. Noun clause can begin with WH word. Actually, we have three types of noun clause: the WH word clause, that clause, and if or whether clause. So let's begin with the WH word clause as a noun clause. WH clauses begin with the word like who, what, how, whenever, which, etc. I need to explain what a noun clause is. So we have what a noun clause is as a noun clause here, and this time it is an object. I don't know where Mary lives. So where Mary lives here is a noun clause, and it is an object in the sentence. Tell me how old is she. So how old she is here is a noun clause that work like an object in the sentence. First, you need to explain what a noun clause is. So what a noun clause is here is a noun clause that work as an object in the sentence. So what is a noun clause? Where does Mary live and how old is she? This form is question form. You can see the position of subject and verb is not the same. With the question form, we have auxiliary verb before the subject. But in the noun clause, we have the subject and verb order as a sentence. So I want you to be clear about the questions and noun clause. They are not the same. Let's look at the first box. What do you do in class? This one we have auxiliary verb do before the subject you. But in noun clause, the word's order is in the subject verb order. What we do in class is easy. You can see that this noun clause begins with WH word what, and then we have the subject we and the verb do. The noun clause is in the order of subject verb. It's like a sentence. The difference is that it begins with the subordinating conjunction, but this time it begins with WH word. Where does he work? Where he works is a secret. What should I do? I don't know what you should do. Who are they? Mary knows who they are. What happened? She knows what happened. The second type of noun clause is whether or if clause. The noun clause that begins with the word whether or if. We use whether or if instead of yes/no questions, or we make yes/no question into noun clause. We use the word whether or if. For example, I don't know whether you have studied noun clauses before. Actually, this noun clause is changed from the yes/no question. Have you studied clauses before? but we don't want to use yes no question here. We want to use noun clause. So the sentence becomes, I don't know whether you have studied noun clauses before. It's like, I don't know, have you studied noun clause before? I don't know if you have studied noun clauses before. I wonder if it will rain tomorrow. We want to ask like, I wonder, will it rain tomorrow? But we don't want to use a yes no question, so we change it into noun clause. I wonder if it will rain tomorrow. I wonder if it will rain tomorrow or not. But we can omit or not, because the meaning contain or not already. Alright, we can just say, I wonder if it will rain tomorrow. I wonder whether or not. We can add the word or not. I wonder whether or not Mary went to work yesterday. I wonder whether Mary went to work yesterday or not. Whether he invites her or not is important. So this time, whether he invites her or not is important here. The noun clause here is the subject of the sentence. The third type of noun clause is that clause. The noun clause that begins with pronoun that. I think that the war will end soon. So that the war will end soon here is an object of the sentence. I think the war will end soon. So the war will end soon here is the object of the sentence. I know that he will be successful. We can omit that in this case. I know he will be successful, or I know that he will be successful. So when you read a sentence with a noun clause without that, you can understand that this one is that clause or noun clause, but they just omit the word that. Teachers claim that grammar is fun. That Mary studied very hard was obvious to John. So this time noun clause or that clause is the subject of the sentence. That pollution affects the quality of our lives is obvious. This time that clause is the subject. It is obvious that the pollution affects the quality of our lives. This time we put it in the position of object. That he is still alive is a miracle. So that he is still alive here is the noun clause that works as the subject of the sentence. It is a miracle that he is still alive. So this time it is the work like an object. So now let's go to the adjective clause or relative clause. So adjective clause or relative clause is a dependent clause that functions as an adjective in a sentence. So when we talk about adjective, the work of an adjective is to modify noun, pronouns, or a whole sentence. It begins with a relative pronoun. So the word that begins an adjective clause or relative clause, we call it relative pronoun. It comes immediately after the word that it modifies. So when we use adjective with a noun, we put adjective before noun. But when we use adjective clause to modify nouns, it comes after the noun it modifies. In some cases, we also have a prepositional phrase between the noun and the relative clause or adjective clause. So now let's look at these examples of adjective clause. So we have 5 sentences that contain adjective clause in it. And again, adjective clause comes after the noun that it modifies, or we put adjective clause after the noun it modifies. And we underline adjective clause here. The first Football World Cup, which took place in 1930, was held in Uruguay. So the adjective clause that we underline here modified the noun World Cup. I have not read the magazine that is lying on the table. So the adjective that we underline here modified the noun magazine. People who use microwave ovens save time and money. So the adjective clause here modified the noun people. Ovens that use microwave energy cook food quickly. So the adjective clause here modify the noun ovens. The award that Ratan received was for his volunteer work. So the adjective clause here modify the noun award. So again, adjective clause or relative clause, we use it as an adjective to modify nouns. And to write an adjective clause or relative clause, we need relative pronouns such as that, which, who, whom, whose, where, when, and why. Biology is a subject that is very interesting. So that is very interesting here is an adjective clause or relative clause that modify the noun subject. It is a subject which I would like to study. Which I would like to study here is the adjective clause or relative clause that modify the noun subject. But the relative pronoun which here is an object in the adjective clause. Dr. Smith, whose class is very interesting, is an expert. So when we talk about possessive, we use whose. Whose here means his. His class is very interesting. But when we change the sentence into an adjective clause, we make the word whose for the possessive. So for the noun that is a place, we use the relative pronouns where. I remember the cafe where we met. So where we met here is the relative clause that modify the noun cafe. Does the class meet at a time when you can attend? So when you can attend here is the relative clause that modify the word or the noun time. The reason why she doesn't want to come is ridiculous. So why she doesn't want to come here is the relative clause that modify the noun reasons. So you can read more about the relative clause from the book and from the internet. You can search more on this topic. Now let's go to the adverb clause or adverbial clause that works like an adverb. So when we use adverb, we use it to answer the question of how, where, when, why, or to what extent, or under what condition. So adverb clause will work like an adverb. So when we talk about the function of an adverb is used to modify verbs, adjectives, and other adverbs. So adverb clause or adverbial clause will work the same as an adverb. We will use adverbial clause to modify verbs, adjectives, and other adverbs. And one more thing to remember about the adverb. You can find adverb anywhere in the sentence. However, they are usually near the verb, adjective, or adverb they modify, but not always. For example, he can run fast. The adverb fast here modify the verb run and tell us how he can run. She really likes soccer. So the adverb really here modify the verb likes. It tells us to what extent she likes the soccer. So we can use adverbs to answer the question of where. Your book is here, so we have the adverb here to tell about the place. Your pencil is there, we have the adverb there. The birds are flying high, so the adverb high here is modify the verb phrase are flying, so tell the place, tell where. The plane is flying by, so we use the adverb by to tell about the place. Or we can use adverbs to answer when. He came home late. We have the adverb late to tell about when did he come home. She woke up early. So we have the adverb early to tell when she woke up. They are performing now. So we have the adverb now to tell when. She will do her homework later. So we have the adverb later to tell when she will do her homework. So unlike an adverb or an adverb phrase, an adverb clause has the subject and a verb. It's like other dependent clause that we just talked about, noun clause and relative clause. An adverb clause also have the subject and verb. Look at the example below. They will leave soon. So we have soon as an adverb. They will leave in a few minutes. We have the prepositional phrase that work like an adverb phrase. They will leave when they are ready. So we have when they are ready here as an adverb clause that begin with the subordinating conjunction when, and this adverb clause tell the time that they will leave. So we can define adverb clause as a subordinator clause or dependent clause that modifies verb, adjective, or adverbs. Like an adverb clause tells where, when, how, why, to what extent, or under what conditions. And we can find adverb clause anywhere in the sentence because it is like adverb at the beginning, middle, or at the end of the sentence. For example, you may sit wherever you wish. So wherever you wish here is an adverb clause that is put at the end of the sentence. And this adverb clause modifies the verb sit. When spring sets in, many students go crazy. When spring sets in here is an adverb clause that modifies the whole sentence and tell us when the student go crazy. Rota and Pisay look as though they have some exciting news for us. So as though they have some exciting news for us here modifies the word look, the verb look. And let's look at some more examples here. Happy because she made an A, Pisay hurried to phone her mom. So the adverb clause or adverbial clause because she made an A here modify an adjective happy and tell us why Pisay was happy. Rota was climbed higher than I can climb higher than I can. So the adverb clause or adverbial clause then I can here modifies the adverb higher and tell to what extent or how much higher Rota can climb. If it does not rain tomorrow, we will go to the beach for class. So if it does not rain tomorrow is an adverb clause that modifies the whole sentence or modifies the verb will go and tell us what condition we will go to the beach. So there is one rule when we use adverb clause. When we put adverb clause in at the beginning of the sentence, it is followed by a comma. But when we move it to the end of the sentence, it doesn't need a comma. Now we have seen a lot of examples of adverbial clause or adverb clause. But one thing you have to remember is that adverb clause is introduced by a subordinating conjunction. So when we learn about adverb clause, it's like we learn about subordinating conjunction because we use different types of subordinating conjunction to tell about place, time, or condition. A word that show the relationship between the adverb clause and the word or words that the clause modifies. When we use with time, we have the subordinating conjunction for time. When we use for place, we have the subordinating conjunction for place. So let's look at some common subordinating conjunctions. So these are some common subordinating conjunctions that we use to begin adverbial clause or adverb clause. We have like after, as though, since, when, before, then, where, unless, whether, until, while. And now it is time for the activities. I have prepared some exercises for you. So do them and send your answers to me before next class. And thank you for now. See you next week.